these positive factors, these are motivating me, just focus on them. These are demotivating me, just eliminate them from your life. One thing, for example, most of the people have told me that they cannot afford coaching. So if they cannot afford coaching, then they cannot make it. Some people have that this perception, but I will tell you that most of my friends, which I know, they crack this exam without any coaching. They crack this exam by self study. So I'm telling you, taking coaching, what coaching does is gives you a direction. I told you, if you have the right direction in your mind and you are able to, you know, see that direction that I have to walk on this path, I have to refer to these books, then the work that coaching does is already done by you. So you don't need any coaching in that case. So this is just an exam and you can easily crack it. So I will tell you again that whenever you are trying to make a book list, make a strategy, just try to put your resources limited. Just try to put your resources limited that okay, I have these much books, I have this much content, I have to read it from here and I will not look anywhere else. For example, if you are reading this brief history of modern India by this Spectrum by Rajeev IPS, then you should think that you shouldn't go to this Bipin Chandra book and three, four books which have the same content. So you should try to minimize your resources. Try to minimize your resources as much as possible. So in this session, I will be confining myself to the motivation and what are the factors apart from this strategy and booklet which influence your success. For example, your success depends on the strategy and how you are preparing for the civil service, your knowledge base. But most of the part of the success it depends on other factors such as motivation. Motivation plays an important role because if you are not motivated, despite putting the efforts, you might not be able to score more or achieve success. Guides and maintains goal oriented behavior. Okay, so I'll repeat it again because the whole lecture depends on this definition. So it is a process that initiates, guides, and maintains goal oriented behavior. Now, if we break this definition into some parts, we will see three things which come out of the definition. And these three things are the components of motivation. So, process that initiates. So initiation, which can be correlated to the effort you put in to achieve success. To achieve something, you have to put some effort. So motivation has three components. One is effort. Second is guides. The definition consists of a word called guides. Guide means direction. You should have a well-defined direction, and you should be focused on that direction. You should not be, ambiguous about direction, or you should not be confused about direction. And the third thing is maintains goal-oriented behavior. Maintenance. Maintenance is persistence, adherence to your strategy, patience, faith on your strategy. So these three things make up the motivation. First is effort, second is direction, and third is adherence to your strategy, persistence, and patience. So in this lecture, I'll start with these. I'll have some this definition, these concepts, and I'll relate it with the examples from my UPSC journey. So you will be able to have a larger idea. So first of all, I would like to tell you about myself that it will help you, relating these things with what I'm going to say. So for example, uh, earlier when I was in class 12. Okay. So I was an average student. So I started preparing for the civil this JE exam, and when I prepared for the IT Delhi, it was the first competitive exam which I was going to give. So I didn't give in even any other competitive exams like NTSC and all that. I just gave IT Delhi JE advanced exam in 2014. So at that time, it was the first experience which I had with any competitive exam, and I devised a strategy, and it turned out good for me. So after IIT Delhi, the same year I gave SPRA exam, Special Class Railway Apprentices. For those people who do not know about this exam, I would like to tell you that UPSC, Union Public Service Commission, conducts an exam called SPRA, in which they take about 40 students at the age of 18 after class 12, and they fund their education, for example, graduation, and they are directly inducted into Indian engineering services. Okay. So in 2014, I was selected in those 40 students and I joined SCRA. After joining SCRA, after 4 years in 2018, I thought that I wanted to do something big. When I was in IT, I thought about, placement packages, I'll come on that thing because, most of the people have asked me that private sector jobs and civil services. So how should we decide whether we should go into private sector or we should go into this, civil services? So I'll tell you how I managed to make that decision. So when I was in IIT Delhi, my sole focus was on to graduating and graduating with a good placement in some of the big MNCs and earning in lakhs and But when I entered SCRA, the whole perception changed because in SCRA, from the day one, I was involved in serving people. Okay, I started going to these workshops. I started seeing people, interacting with them, and then I realized that this is the thing which satisfies me. So when I went to SCRA, I left IIT Delhi in about 3 months. So when I went to SCRA, I started interacting with people, and then I knew that this is the field where I want to go. So in 2018, I thought of cracking the civil services exam. So I took 1 year leave in 2018 after graduating from SCRA, and after in that 1 year leave, I started preparing in about October 2018. And I tell you, when I was started preparing for civil services, I didn't even know that how Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and Constitution, and how all these things work. Because I didn't have a touch with social science since my class 10. Okay, so since 2012, when I passed my class 10, I didn't even was in contact. I was not in contact with the social science subject. I was a science student, so it was very tough for me to first of all develop interest in social science subjects and then perfect them. And I had nearly 8 months for prelims. So in October, when I started preparing for the civil services, I had very less time. I didn't have a well laid out strategy, you know. So it was very quite tough. But one thing was clear in my mind that I had to do it in the first time because we were given only 1 year leave. So we were given only 1 year leave. So in that 1 year, I had to crack this exam. So in October, first of all, I decided not to join any coaching because I knew that this exam can be cracked by self-study. Because if in 8 months I'll go for coaching, then coaching my 3 4 months will be 3 4 months will be gone in this coaching stuff. Then I will be having very less time for self-study. And one thing I realized about myself is that I'm very good when it comes to self-study. So I decided not to join any coaching. I came to my home and started and devised a strategy, 2 days strategy. For example, in 2 days, I focus myself on devising a strategy. Now I will tell you all that whenever you devise a strategy, the thing is, do not focus on you know referring to multiple topper talks and making a book list. For example, if you are reading modern history, then it is not that you are making a book list and you are reading 3 books on modern history because these 3 books will give you same content more or less, but it will consume a lot of time in reading 3 books. Rather, choose one book and read it multiple times. That I will tell you. So I started preparing for the civil services in October 2018. I focused first on prelims. After prelims, I focused on mains and then on interview. Now, when I started for preparing for the mains, my optional wasn't done. I didn't have an idea about my optional, but I have an interest in public administration. So I filled public administration as an optional in January application form, but I have never studied public administration. So after clearing my prelims, I had 25 days to prepare for optional subject. Now I'll tell you, in 25 days I prepared for this public administration and gave my mains. And between mains and interview, what I did was I analyzed the previous year results, papers, and everything, that how this selection process goes, how UPSC forms a paper, and what are the things, how this whole civil services thing works. So I came to know this. For example, after seeing this analysis, after doing this analysis, I realized that I didn't have an idea which service I will get. but I was sure that I will make it. Now, coming to this motivation part. Now, this was my story. Now, I will be picking up examples from this story to tell you how to stay motivated. So, I already have told you there are three components to the motivation. First is effort, second is direction, and third is persistence. So, lacking in any of the component will be negative for you. So, you have to be strong both in effort, direction, and persistence and patience. So, motivation, I had already told you that your journey starts with devising a strategy. So this is direction. For example, which direction you should choose. For example, when you start for the civil service preparation exam, you devise a strategy. This comes in the direction part of the motivation. After that direction, you have an idea. Then there is this faith that this direction, this strategy will work out. So this is the persistence on which you should focus. So there should be a direction, there should be a persistence that you should focus on that. And then after you have devised the direction, after devise a strategy that this is the direction I have to walk, then you have to have faith in that direction that I will walk on this path. Then the most important part is effort. You have to make effort which is needed to work on that path and achieve success. Now if you lack in that effort, you might not be able to achieve success. So these three things you have to understand. Now motivation depend can be of two types. One is intrinsic motivation, second is extrinsic motivation. So these three factors, effort, direction, and persistent adherence to this strategy, these three things will strengthen you inside. Three things will strengthen your intrinsic motivation. You will have self-confidence. Okay, now I know I have a fair idea how this thing works. My direction is correct. I am putting effort, and I have faith on this strategy. I am adhering to this strategy. So this will give you a self confidence, which will boost your intrinsic motivation. Now there will be extrinsic motivation, which will try to either push you or you pull you downwards. So the extrinsic motivation, for example, your parents will talk to you, and there will be things. Then you will be studying, you will be giving some exams, and for example, test series. And in those test series, you will be scoring high, and when you will be scoring high, you will get a boost. You will get this pumped up. Okay, now I'm doing very good. So this thing will boost your intrinsic motivation. Whereas extrinsic motivation, which can also pull you downwards, which is failure. For example, when you face any failure, then it will have an impact on your intrinsic motivation. You will not feel motivated. You will be like, I'm putting so much efforts. The thing which will come in your mind is, I'm putting so much effort, but still I'm failing. But you have to realize, you might be putting so much effort, but your direction can be wrong, or you do not have faith on your direction. It might be possible. So it is not only that you are putting so much effort, but you are like, yeah, I'm putting so much effort, but still I'm not achieving success. So failures, which pulls you downward. Second is relatives. For example, you will be facing some things. For example, in your life, you will be interacting with relatives, and they will try to pull you down. So all these things which have a negative impact on your intrinsic motivation, which pulls you downward, try to minimize them. Okay, try to minimize them and maximize this extrinsic motivation which pushes you. For example, your family, relatives, success. These things which push you, maximize that thing and minimize the thing which pulls you downward. Now, Now, I will start with for example, I will take examples out of my story. So, I was not a very good student. I was an average student when I started preparing for the civil services or when I started preparing for the IIT exam. But there were some things which happened with me which boosted me. For example, I faced, when I was an average student, I faced some insults. I faced some people insulting me that you cannot do anything. And, felt that thing inside me, deep inside me, that I have to do something because I cannot take that. So these things, that thing, motivated me to perform. Then when I topped my class in class 7th, I topped for the first time. When I topped in the class 7th for the first time, now that success pushed me more. It motivated me to do more because now I tasted the success, how it feels. So I maintained that. Then I started performing, in IT or SPRA or civil services. So now I know some people have asked me that, there are times when you face these failures in your life, or you, for example, some people have told me that, they are from Hindi medium background. They are not engineers. They are not IITians, and they don't have. They are not able to achieve success. They are not able to clear prelims, and there have been three attempts, but still they cannot clear prelims. So they think that they won't be able to make it. So now think it like that. When I prepared for the civil services, I didn't even know the basic idea of constitution, how geography works, what is history of India in in exact and particular, for example, which war, and what was the basic chronological order of historical events. I didn't know anything, so I had infinite things which could have which could have demotivated me and brought me down. I didn't even know a basic thing about my optional, and after 3 months I had my mains, and I haven't even I didn't even read for once what is public administration. I had 25 days to prepare for the public administration. I could have been demotivated that I have only 25 days. People spend 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 3 months, 6 months coaching on this public administration subject, and still they cannot score much, and I have only 25 days. What I will be able to do? But no, when you are faced with such kind of things, you have two ways. One is you sit down, think about it, and quit. Yeah, I cannot do this. This cannot be done. One is you make the use of the resources which you have at your disposal. I knew I have 25 days. I have to give names. If I stop here and do not make efforts, I won't be able to crack names. But if I prepare, जितना भी हो सकता है, if I prepare and I give exam, even if I didn't play, because if I don't perform, then the result in both the cases are same. But if I perform in this side, and I'm able to make it through the civil services. So I started preparing for the civil this public administration in 25 days, and gave my 100%, in every exam, and then gave my 100% interview, and I was finally able to make it. So now I feel if I would have just sat down and I was like, I would have been like, "Please, nahi, ab nahi hoga, I cannot do this," and I wouldn't have made it through the civil services. So I'll just tell you, whatever the things in your life, for example, if you haven't scored good in your degree, in your graduation, and you do not have any hobbies to fill in your depth, and there are infinite things which you think will go negative in your interview, which you do not have an extra edge above others. Don't let it get heavy on you. For example, don't let it influence you, because in this exam, if you have that zeal to if you have that zeal to achieve success to crack this exam, you will be able to make it. Because civil services, as I tell to everyone, that the civil services exam is not something which you cannot crack. The only people which who fail in this exam are the ones who quit. So you just have to understand one thing: if you will not quit, you will be able to make it through this exam, and I assure you this thing. If you will not quit, you will be able to make through this exam 100%. So just try to be positive and focus on these three things: your effort, direction, and persistence. First of all, devise a strategy and work on that. But while devising the strategy, now I will tell you, while devising the strategy, what you will be doing is you will be referring to multiple sources, you will be watching multiple topper talks, you will be making a book list. For every subject you will be having about 3 or 4 books. You will start reading them. This is not the right way. First of all, if you will research, you will see so many topic talks. Every person has a different method of studying. Every person has a different book list. Every person has a different path, different strategy, all leading to the success. So you cannot do, for example, you are following one person and you are walking on that path, and in midway you decide that you will be shifting from that path to another path. This cannot happen. For example, you cannot, if you are walking on someone's path, then it is not possible to shift your path midway. You start from the midway, you will shift to this path and start walking on this path. Do not do that. Because when devising a strategy, see one top and see top and follow the one which you think which resembles you, which resembles your aptitude. Yeah, I will be able to walk this path on this path. Then start following it without even having this, without confusing yourself. That person is reading that book, that person is reading that book. I'm telling you, there are multiple sources for every subject, even internal security, even disaster management. Subjects like disaster management have infinite sources. So the other person will be reading some other thing, the other person will be reading some other thing. This doesn't mean that whatever you are reading is wrong. So do not let that thought get heavy on you, get influence you that that person is reading that, so I should read that. For example, I'll tell you by this example. In the post-independence history, you have multiple sources. For example, one book is India since independence, one is India after Gandhi, and third is some people try to do post-independence by these coaching institutes notes, and some people read on Wikipedia. These four methods are good. Okay, so it depends which method you choose, and just stick to it. For example, when you are choosing your option, for example, when I chose optional public administration, most of the people told me that public administration is not a scoring subject nowadays. After 2010, the graph of public administration scoring has fallen down very drastically. But once I chosen the subject, I knew that I've chosen this subject. I cannot do anything. I have to crack this exam by this subject only. And believe me, I scored exceptionally well in that exam, in that public administration subject, because that was of my interest. So do not let these things influence you. For example, if you have geography option, you are not able to score more. Think, for example, whether your direction is good, whether your strategy is good, whether you are putting efforts, and whether you are persistent. You know, do not change. Drastically. For example, you gave this exam, you were not able to score more in this optional subject, and you decide that no, I will go with anthropology because it is a scoring subject. But I have so much examples in which I have seen that people are not able to score even in anthropology, even in subjects like anthropology, they are not able to score because scoring in an optional depends on your effort, how much of effort you have done, whether you have a well laid out strategy, and whether you have faith in your strategy that yes, these books are enough for this optional. So just try to stick to an optional. Change it when you have lost all hope that that I've been doing this. I have the right direction, faith, and I've putting efforts, but still I'm not able to do it. Then only change that optional. But abstain from changing optional. Abstain from your changing your strategy. Because if you change your strategy, then it might have a very negative impact on your success or journey towards the civil services. So this is all about optional subject. Now, uh, okay. So now on focusing on this UPSC, this whole process. So for prelims, you have a basic book list. You follow that book list. Focus on your prelims. When you are preparing for prelims, just try to just keep your mind off this mains and interview. Do not focus whether I will get selected or not, whether I will be selected or I will be able to perform or not. Don't let these negative thoughts. I told you the negative thoughts which pull you down. Try to minimize it because there is nothing you can change about it. For example, if you have scored less in your graduation, you can do nothing about it. But if you think it again and again, it might even influence your marks in other subjects. So just try to eliminate these negative factors from your life. Even if you have a Hindi medium, even if you don't have a good marks in graduation, even if you are not an engineer, even if you have everything against you, still you can make it through this exam. Just have this belief, and you will be able to make it. So these internal and external factors, these are the factors, which you should focus on. For example, these positive factors, these are motivating me, just focus on them. These are demotivating me, just eliminate them from your life. So you will be able to make it through this exam. So when after you have cracked your prelims, then you start with the answer writing. Now answer writing requires different level of aptitude than prelims. Prelims require memorizing the facts. Okay, this happened there. So all the factual things you have to memorize for prelims. But in mains, the facts and all these things have a less relevance. You have to be more analytical. You have to analyze things. You have to, write things. When while writing, you have to include maximum dimensions. For example, if something is happening, you should know its political cause, economical cause, social cause, technological, environmental, legal, ethical, and you have should know this solution to every dimension, and you should know how you should give this exam, and the government schemes, and concluding it in the right manner. So these things you should focus on more. The mains require a different type of attitude which you develop after prelims, or when you start writing answer writing, then you understand that mains is different from prelims. Although the syllabus is same, preparation, the books are same, strategy is same, but the mindset is different. When you are preparing for your prelims, you have to be more factual. When you are preparing for mains, you have to be more analytical. And when you are preparing for the interview, you have to be more, present, and you should know how to speak up your mind. For example, you have the knowledge base, you have things in your mind, you know how to, everything about that thing, but you are not able to speak it up or write it up, present it in your answers, and it is the waste in your mind. So just try to, you should be able to put your thoughts on your paper, or in front of that interview board, so you are able to score more in this exam. So and as I told you that why I chose civil services over private sector, there is this thing in theories of motivation. You will be reading that there is something called Maslow's hierarchical needs, Maslow theory of needs, in which Maslow has presented his needs in 5 steps, and some are higher order needs, some are lower order needs. So Maslow says that first of all, a person tries to satisfy his basic needs. Then after satisfying his basic needs, he goes to security needs. For example, basic needs come in the form of food, shelter, clothing. Then he goes to security needs such as pension, job security. Then he goes to the social needs, which comes from family and your relations. And after your social needs, he move towards self-esteem and then self-actualization. So self-actualization is the last need to which a person goes. So why I chose civil services above private sector was that in both the sectors I will be able to achieve my basic security and social needs. But this self-esteem need, which a person realizes after the age of 30, this self-esteem is tough to achieve in private sector and relatively easier to achieve in government sector. In both the sectors you can achieve them, but in government sector you will be able to achieve this self-esteem need quite earlier as compared to private sector, and then self-actualization. And moreover, most of the one of the most important factor was that I felt satisfaction while serving the people. I would have, earned a lot of money, and in the private sector, but I don't think I would have felt that sense of satisfaction which I feel when I serve people. So this is why I chose civil services above private sector, and this is all about motivation, which I wanted to speak today. I don't think I have left anything, but I would just like to tell you that do not build stereotypes in your mind. For example, there are some people who tell to me that while feeling the depth, they don't know what to feel in their hobby because they generally do not have any hobby, and they are scared of putting it blank because they are like, if I put it blank, I won't be able to score much. But I'm telling you, this is just a stereotype. It might be possible that your interview board does not even look at the hobby section. For example, in my case, my interview board doesn't look at the hobby section. They don't even give a slight glance to that hobby section. They only saw the first page. So this is a do not build this kind of stereotypes. For example, if you have, I already told you, if you have less in graduation marks, then it will have an impact. Don't think about it. And if you're not an engineer, you don't have an extra edge. There is nothing like that. Uh, and one thing, for example, most of the people have told me that they cannot afford coaching. So if they cannot afford coaching, then they cannot make it. Some people have that this perception, but I will tell you that most of my friends, which I know, they crack this exam without any coaching. They crack this exam by self study. So I'm telling you, taking coaching, what coaching does is gives you a direction. I told you, if you have the right direction in your mind, and you are able to, you know, see that direction, that I have to walk on this path, I have to refer to these books, then the work that coaching does is already done by you. So you don't need any coaching in that case. So you just have to work on the direction. And I told you that I will tell you again that, whenever you are trying to make a book list, make a strategy, just try to put your resources limited. Just try to put your resources limited, that okay, I have these much books, I have this much content, I have to read it from here, and I will not look, anywhere else. For example, if you are reading this Brief History of Modern India by Spectrum by Rajeev IPS, then you should think that you shouldn't go to this Bipin Chandra book and, three, four books which have the same content. So you should try to minimize your resources. Try to minimize your resources as much as possible. Focus on this current affairs, uh, newspaper, The Hindu or Indian Express separately, plus there's any monthly magazine of any coaching series you can refer to, plus this limited resources, just memorize it again and again. Revision is one thing which will give you an extra advantage, an extra edge. So try to revise as much as possible, try to revise as much as possible. And revision is the key, I'm telling you again, because in mains, when you write an answer, then you are able to write good answers if you have that thing in your mind. If you will revise something, for example, I revise every subject about 40 times. When I revised about 40 times, so it was, something like it ingrained in my mind. When I was writing answers, I could write in the exact language in which I read it, because I revised it so many times. But if you have multiple resources, you won't be able to revise it as many times. So try to, put your resources to a minimum level, revise it multiple times, and then present it in your answers. So one thing I'll again tell you, that, don't get scared by this exam. This is a crackable exam. You just need to be motivated. You just need two things. First is extrinsic motivation. The people, the family members, which motivate you, try to speak to them, try to hang out with them, and the people who demotivate you, try to eliminate them, don't talk to them. And try to do everything which motivates you. For example, watching videos, and watching some motivation talks. These all come in extrinsic motivation. And internal motivation will come when you will be having right direction, you will be having faith in that direction, and you will be putting effort. So whenever you think you are feeling low on motivation, just try to see these three things: effort, direction, and your persistence. If you, in these in these three components, if you are okay and you have faith that your direction is in and putting efforts, and I am persistent also, then you don't need anything to fear. You don't have anything to fear. You will be able to make it. So if you are strong on your intrinsic motivation, then you will be able to make it. And don't let negative extrinsic motivation, for example failures and your relatives and all that, influence you. Just try to have a positive mindset, and you will be able to make it. Thank you. This is what I wanted to tell you today. And I'll conclude by saying that maximize everything which helps you believe that you can make it. Maximize everything which, which helps you believe that you can make it, and minimize everything which, pulls you down and which gives you fear and, which scares you. So this is just an exam and you can easily crack it. So yeah, this is what I wanted to say. Thank you so much.
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया हिमांशु जी, आपने बहुत सहजता के साथ और बहुत साफ गोई के साथ अपनी बात कही।